put them on wheels.
bring everything over, and then reload them. And apparently whoever crunched the numbers or what have you, it's still cheaper than going through the Panama Canal, even though you're unloading and
Yeah, but
reloading.
it takes forever. I mean, it takes like 6 days or something, 5 days to get it.
Whatever, somebody that's, shipping
Yeah, but you
stuff.
can't, and that's great for merchandise and all, if but you can't, if you have an army vessel, look, if there's a problem in the world and our ships from California need to get to New York quick because we're having an issue with Europe, so we need backup, you can't do it that way. You have to go through the Panama Canal, and then if China is running it or has control of it, they could just shut the canal down and say, we're not letting you through.
George, one missile will shut the canal down, right?
Yeah, I know, but so, and that's why he felt like he needed to take control of it again. And that's why he's looking at Greenland too, because you got China and Russia up there.
Well, that way you control the top of the
Right, and I agree with him. And I don't know what the whole thing with Canada is. I mean, I think he's just after their minerals or something, because they got a lot of mountains out there.
Canada is one of the largest countries on the planet, and it's virtually empty.
Yeah.
They got a couple of people on the west coast of Canada, and then everybody else is on the east coast.
40 million Canadians. 40 million. So, but actually, Canada's long. It's 4,000 miles wide, depending how you look at it. But it's only like 1,000 miles. It's not, huge. Really, it's not
It's
huge.
big, and it does have a lot of mineral resources and stuff
I
like that.
think that's what he's looking at. I think he's got this whole thing in his head that we rely heavily on China for our minerals, but really it's the processing of it. Like, you get the minerals out of the earth. We don't process them in the United States because of the pollution and this and that and all the problems that it causes. So the minerals get shipped to China. China processes them into, lithium and batteries or whatever else they're making out of it, and then they send it back to us. So, I don't know, maybe he's thinking in Canada he can process them, or in the Ukraine. I would say the Ukraine for sure. Set a processing center there, dig the minerals out of the earth. It's kind of like the fishermen, when they go out to the Bering Sea, and they go fishing, whatever fish it is that they catch, the ship, they come to another ship where they unload it. It's not like that show you see with the crabs where they offload it on land.
Right.
The crabs get offloaded on land because you really can't process them the way you think you can. But if you're catching, let's say, tuna, you offload it on another vessel, and that vessel skins them, debones them, cuts them, and all the heads and all the crap goes back in the ocean. It becomes chum.
Right.
And they freeze it right on the vessel. They package it, freeze it, everything. Bulk pack. And then it comes to the United States already frozen. That's the way they do it. The crabs, on the other hand, is still kind of, I think it's antiquated, it's kind of outdated, where they bring it back to land and they process it on land. I don't know why. It has to have something
Yeah,
to
but
do
don't they
with
have to stay alive, the crabs? I mean,
maybe that's the reason
yeah,
why
yeah.
they have. Right. You know what? You might be right, because if they're not frozen, they have to stay alive. But when you buy them in the store, you get them frozen to the crabs, so they take the legs off and they freeze them. So I'm not sure. Maybe they're worth more money if they're alive. I'm not sure. But you know what?
It's very interesting. That's for
It
sure.
is what it is. But so I had this thing going. Let's see if this can still. Yeah, it's still videotaping. So I had this thing going. So it's kind of like getting me and you. And it was a nice conversation we just had.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just two guys talking in a pizza shop.
It's it's like comedians in cars.
Yeah, we're going to call this episode Pizza Conversations.
Lousy pizza conversation.
Warm beer and cold pizza.
It's funny.
But
I watched, do you like comedians on Netflix? Or?
some of them. Depends.
I watched, I like some of his stuff, and some of his stuff's a little bit over the top for me, but you know who Andrew Schultz is, the comedian?
No, I do not.
Anyway, he's got a new Netflix special, so I watched it last night. It was kind of funny. He talks about, he's having his first baby, and they had trouble conceiving, and they went through IVF, and he talks about all that stuff. But it's kind of humorous.
I watch, believe it or not, I like Bill Maher, believe it or not.
I love Bill Maher.
Well,
I don't like. I don't
wouldn't
like.
say I love him. I like him.
No,
I don't know about love.
I think he's no. To me, he's smart.
He's middle of the road kind of guy.
He's fun. I think he's funny.
Pretty
because, look, I love Trump. I love the Republican Party. But when he makes fun of Trump, I laugh. Some of the stuff he says is funny, and.
But you see how did you watch him last week where he said, you know, he kind of like, he stopped talking about the dance he was doing because he always said it looked like he was jerking off two guys.
Right.
But he says, now I can't talk about it anymore because that dance became like worldwide. Everybody's doing it. And he says, so, you know, I actually helped the guy. You know, I gave him his trademark dance, you know. It was pretty funny the way he put it out there.
No, he's funny. And I love his segment, New Rules. I love New Rules.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
Funny as hell.
And you know what? He's an East Coast kind of guy. He's from, I think, Brooklyn or Staten Island. I don't know where he's from, Jersey somewhere.
Almost,
I think Jersey,
almost
Bergen County.
almost everybody their mother's from Jersey.
Yeah, I think he's from Bergen County. So he's kind of like, you know, he's an East Coaster the way he talks. And he says it. He says, you know, I grew up poor, you know, middle class. He says, but it's much better being rich. And that's what I like. He's just an honest guy. He says, look, I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry if you're poor. You know, work hard like I did.
Rich is better.
But rich is better. You know, once you fly private, you don't want to fly commercial anymore.
Exactly.
You know?
See, but, you know, that's why I hate all this, like, class envy and people that begrudge people with money or whatever.
Yeah.
Because people see you now, like, and assume you were always rich or you were always successful.
No.
Nobody remembers you playing, you know, the dive clubs where maybe there was two drunks in the audience and that was all that was
and
there.
he talks about that. He says, you know, I did that for... If you ever watch his podcast called Club Random?
I watch when the feed comes on YouTube once in a while.
Yeah, so some guests he had are really, really good. Like Tom Green was a good one. If you watch any of them, watch him when he has Tom Green on, that was a good one. But like I didn't like he had one with, who's that director? The guy that did Pulp Fiction and all the crazy
Tarantino.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino. I didn't like that at all. Because Quentin Tarantino is just too much of a, in my opinion, too much of a lib. I mean,
he is, but I love his movies.
Oh, his movies are good. This has nothing to do with whether or not he's talented. His movies are phenomenal.
You're so funny. Not that there's anything wrong with
No, right, like in Seinfeld. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but he...
the opinions expressed on this show.
Right. Not intended, but he is so far left. I mean, he just said on his podcast, on Mark's podcast, he says, listen, say what she's got to say, whatever she's got to say. This was before the election, you know. She's got to say whatever she's got to say just to win. She's got to win, man. Do you fucking get it? She's got to win. And Bill Maher's like, yeah, but wait a second. She can't go promising the world and then not do it. She's got to it's got to make sense. He's like, I don't care. Who gives a fuck? He's like, really, if you watch it, you'll see.
But it's funny because, you know, the senator, I think he's from Connecticut, not 100%. The guy, Chris Murphy.
Yeah.
When the whole fallout with Zelensky and Trump and all that stuff, whatever. Anyway, he posted on X, he says, you know, my grandfather was from the greatest generation, and he would be rolling in his grave if he knew he fought in the Second World War, you know, to fight fascism and this, that, and the other thing. He says, and now we have a president here in the United States defending fascism and all that stuff. Let me tell you, I immediately picked up on it, and I laced right into him when I tweeted back to him. And then I started reading all the comments from all the other people, and everybody picked up on the same thing. I go, you freaking idiot. You mentioned your grandfather fighting in World War II. I go, you realize he was fighting on the side of Russia, don't you? Like, we were on the communist side.
Yeah.
In World War II.
No, we were.
So I said to him, why don't you read a history book?
But I felt like
before?
we had no choice in that. We were propelled into that.
Well,
you know, we didn't want to join that war, and I don't want to get into that whole war story. But if Pearl Harbor didn't happen, I don't know. I think Europe would be speaking German right now. If Pearl Harbor did not happen, I think France and Italy, they'd all be speaking German right now. Mussolini, that's what he wanted.
Because you know what, George, that was a war that, like, events, because once the fighting starts, whatever plans you had just immediately go out the window. Because events start spiraling out of control. Hitler did not want to go to war with the U.S. because he knew eventually he would lose. But he made the alliance with Japan. Japan, behind his back, bombed Pearl Harbor. And he was like, fuck. You know, Hitler wanted to make peace with England because the English to him were, you know, white, Aryan, you know, whatever, like his kind of people. He didn't want to keep fighting them. He sent out feelers to the royal family and everybody else, and, you know, Churchill wanted no part of it.
Thank God.
But I'm saying, had they made peace, whatever, then everybody would have taken out, communism would have ended. Because I think everybody would have eventually just taken out the Russians at that point. Because nobody really liked
No,
the
but we had
Russians.
no choice. We had to align ourselves with Russia at that time because Mussolini was in Italy, Hitler was all over Europe.
But Italy was never a military threat to anybody.
The Japanese were, bombing us. Who was left? China,
Well, China was on our side.
Russia, China. The Middle East weren't even a factor in it, right?
Well, they weren't, because the Nazis tried to rile up the Arabs so they could tie down British troops in Egypt and in Africa and everything else. You got to realize that was all
Yeah, at one time it was all
English colonies.
under the crown.
Right, exactly. So,
I don't know. I think
and they try to get Iran to like start trouble too, because Iran, borders Russia. But the Iranians decided, you know what, we're just going to sit this one out.
they were smart back then. Now they're maybe not so smart.
But you got to realize, history makes very strange alliances. People that you think shouldn't get along with each other get along with each other because the enemy of my enemy is my friend type
I
thing,
know,
and
isn't that
that's
something?
and it's sad.
It is sad, but I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I mean, I thought his speech last night was great. And,
It was I was, like I said, I'm not a Democrat obviously, but if I was, I would be totally embarrassed. And